The knives are out. They have been plunged deep into Biden's back. And, well, we're here for the fallout. Over the past week, I was looking to do a show, and every single day, more and more news kept coming out. I thought it was good to let it settle down. We're going to come at you today with the new recent pick by the Democrats, who's going to be taking over. Just a hint, it's Kamala. And we got some updates on the Trump shooting that are, to me, quite interesting. And I think go to show that there's a lot more that needs to be talked about going forward. Without any further ado, let's get right into the show. Weird line in my head. Looks like I got a tan line. I think it's just my angry brow. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you so much. Last show that we had, I should say, 2 weeks ago. Great numbers, great views. Only thing I could ask is, guys, hit up the likes, hit up the dislikes if you didn't like it. But huge amount of views. Could not thank you guys enough. I hope we get the same this week. There's a lot of breaking news. Hope you guys are into at least a breakdown, at least hearing the stuff that has been proved factual and not overstepping, not over committing to any opinions. That at least is the way that we try to do things over here at We the Patriots. And I believe I have a little bit of a gift for you guys next week. I'll be getting together with an old friend, putting together a show, and we'll be talking about a little bit, hopefully, bird's eye view of things as they are happening. We are now 4 months away from the election, and things have become a race again, and I'm excited. So let's get right into it. This last week has been a doozy. Last show, we talked about the failed assassination attempt on President Donald Trump. We have more on that later, some stuff that has been just mind-blowing to think that, well, again, we'll get into it later. First thing I want to do is Biden went away on seemed like a COVID retreat. Now, I was having news popping up all over my feed saying things are more serious than COVID. Looks like he's getting medevaced. Looked like they're clearing air. All of this speculation seems to have been untrue, or at least leading in the wrong direction. Seemed like things for Biden, health-wise, were heading downhill fast. If you've been paying attention at all, especially over the past, I would say, couple of years, the transformation of Joe Biden into a real old man happened, and it's happened quickly. When he was running his race in 2020, I would say he was compromised. It seemed hard to follow. A lot of his logic, a lot of his thinking was slow. It was repeated. There was a lot of mumbling. Now it's gotten to a point where he can barely walk. He looks like he really should be in a wheelchair or have a walker. He looks confused, dazed everywhere he's going. And that led up to, after the COVID stint that he had over the past couple of weeks, he actually said he was coming out with a statement, and he dropped out of the race. He came out with a letter. He did not even come out with a statement at first. He came out with a letter last Sunday saying that he dropped out of the race. Now, it was interesting, if you're following along, the initial letter did not include any depiction to Kamala being the sponsored candidate by Biden. Logically, it only makes sense for it to be Kamala because she's the vice president of the United States. You would think she would be the most qualified to take over if things, really hit the fan. So why wouldn't she be the nominee? But then again, you go to think, well, if Joe is dropping out of the race, why is he still president? And that's a thought that at least I had. Now, what I can assume is that there was a lot of deal making. Just if this is going out on a limb here, and this could very well be wrong, there's a lot of deal making. There's a lot of backroom talks in order to secure the wink, wink, nod, nod nomination votes needed to actually cast Kamala onto the ballot. Now, remember, this had to happen quickly. There are certain states that deadline is coming up, within 90 days, 100 days of the election, which we are nearing in on. You have to have your certified candidate already for the ballot. So they were going to run into issues there on the Democratic side. They had to do this when they did it. And I am one to believe that if you're looking back as to why they scheduled debates so early, why they asked, my guess is they wanted to allow this. Everything kind of looks pre-planned, regardless of it being pre-planned or not. I think as a Democrat, Republican, or independent, you have to tip your cap to the Democrats to be able to get themselves out of in my opinion, unwinnable situation with Joe Biden. He is an unliked candidate. He has nothing really going for him, and his VP is Kamala. Now, when you're talking about Kamala herself, she's much younger. She is a woman. She is a person of color. She checks a lot of boxes for what people like to vote on single issue voting. And when you're voting against an old white man and a younger version of him now in J.D. Vance as his running mate, you leave a lot from the Republican point of view, from the right side of things, you leave a lot of open room to get attacked there as the white group, the white party. And that's where I think this campaign is going to go. It's going to get dirty. Anybody who thought that the rhetoric was starting to come down, was starting to become more unity driven. I, for one, was one of those people who thought after the attempted assassination on our former president that there would be a settling of the rhetoric. Well, injunction of Kamala Harris into this race and the placement at the time that it is only allows for the rhetoric to go further out of hand. Okay. The reason being, or at least in my opinion here, Kamala doesn't have much to run on. When you're talking about policy wise, when you're talking about her stances or her past, it's very unlikable. You have climate and abortion rights talk and proposals, at least coming from her, that are far beyond what any mainstream Democrat has ever run. I believe that she was the most, or one of the most, left voting Democrats in the Senate ever, especially for the time that she was in. So you're running on a very short window how you're going to win this race. And I do believe that what you're going to see from the left side, and what you've already seen, in my opinion, letting this settle for a week and seeing where the ground is, I'm seeing a massive amount of attacks, racism and sexism. Racism and sexism. It's going to be the main two lines of attack. And to be honest, they are pretty predictable. Now, the response and everything that happened afterwards, here's what I want to get. So Biden's out now. Now, Biden is no longer a part of this race, but it took a couple of hours or an hour for Joe Biden to officially endorse Kamala Harris as the next presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. It took a little while for a lot of people to do this. Now, I believe that the Clintons were right out of the chutes, but the Obamas were not right away. A lot of the Democratic Party held their tongue, waiting for, looked like, the ground to settle again. And it seems like everybody has centered their pick in on Kamala. Now, you saw that within even that day, a $50 million boost to donations on the Democratic side. And within the following day, it was up to $150 million just interjected into the campaign, just like that. When you have numbers like that, it's hard to believe that some of this stuff was not planned. Was this hung over Joe Biden's head? Joe, we have this money ready for donations. You just need to get the hell out of the way. And I think it was something along those lines. Okay. It didn't really matter who the candidate was picked to be, but it did matter that it was not Joe Biden. A lot of people can't support him. Even on a grand scale or even an international scale, it's hard to watch Joe Biden be the leader of the free world. I understand that. Being as though they went through the lengths that they did, the Democratic side, to get now their candidate that they feel confident in, it is all things go. This is their chance for 2024, and it is fascinating to me just to see that this race closed up in a heartbeat. Now have an opportunity for a extremely close race. I think that Trump's VP pick, which I want to have Andrew on in a little bit to discuss, I think Trump's VP pick in Vance was a complete mistake. I think that he had the opportunity because he did make this pick after he was shot at. You had the opportunity to pick someone who is much more closer to the middle ground and really broaden your base of support out, right? Give that unity message something that has its teeth to bite into, right? And I think with that, you go with a middling pick. Someone like, I'm not a huge fan of Glenn Youngkin down from Virginia, but someone from a purple state like that, someone who can wheel and deal, and someone who is more than willing to cross party lines when maybe the other party is not willing to talk to Donald Trump. You have to be ready for that reality as people on the right and conservatives in general as well. But you're trying to win that independent vote. And right now, I think that the energy and the momentum is massively with the Democratic side and Kamala Harris. And it will be interesting to see, one, who she picks as VP. Number two, if this momentum continues or if Trump is able to stop it, if there is anything to come from RFK, does RFK drop out in a deal with Trump, in a deal with Kamala? Who does he support? Running at 10% is not weak, and running at 10% as a third-party candidate, when things are in chaos like this, is exactly what you want. The whole real climate of our politics into a a chaotic sphere, and that's exactly what that third party candidate wants. So I don't foresee RFK dropping out. I know that there was a leaked phone call, and if you hadn't seen it, go check it out. There's a leaked phone call with RFK Jr. between him and Donald Trump, talking about the craziness, talking about the election, and to me, it seemed like they were, or at least Trump was angling for a possible dropout of RFK in order to get into his cabinet or something along those lines. And you have to imagine that that's the way that he wants to play it, try to garner that vote, maybe get some support from RFK himself. We'll have to see. The one thing that we have to talk about with Kamala is, or at least that I wanted to talk about with Kamala, is she got put in, she got no votes. She did not get the support from the people, but she did get the support from her party. It will be interesting to me to see how the party, in particular the people of the party, react to that. Are the Democrats okay with having a candidate pushed into their face that they were not okay with, did not vote for? Joe Biden handily beat her in 2020 in the Democratic primary. It'd be very interesting to see if she gets all of that Democratic base. Now, one thing you have to just congratulate on is and recognize is the full unity of the media. They went from starting to go against Joe Biden and really push for his ouster. Not necessarily the entirety of the media. Of course, you had their henchmen. And this is also assuming, of course, we're talking about left-wing media here. There's a lot of right-wing media, especially independent media nowadays, that is not holding the president or the former president's hand. And that is the media that I hope that you guys subscribe to, is the media that we trust. But that being said, when we're talking about the left-wing media, the MSM, all of the mainstream stuff, you're talking about CNN, ABC, CNBC, they got behind Kamala immediately. And also what you saw, if anybody else was paying attention, I hope that you guys aren't watching too much of this stuff anymore. It is an attempt at brainwashing at this point. They try to say that Joe Biden is a heroic man for dropping out of this race. And I just got to give my opinion on that. A heroic figure would not have run under these circumstances. A heroic figure would have sourced out a better follow-up to themselves than Joe Biden has done. Should not have pushed it to the last minute. Should have left open room for the democratic process to take place, and instead pushed his boundaries, pushed his limits, tried to hold on to that power for so long. And I have to admit, it was tough looking from the outside in. It's hard to witness someone like Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, who are people who really should have no say whatsoever in what the president should or should not do, especially talking about his future. They should encourage him, I would hope, to maybe take a step back if things are overbearing, which is what it seems. But it seems that all they have done is pushed for him to stay in power, tried to make excuses. It's been recently heard that Hunter Biden has a lot to help out with the president nowadays, and he's with him in daily meetings often. Nobody elected Hunter Biden, and I'm sure if given the choice, American people would pretty substantially put the stamp of no on him. Put that stamp of disapproval. I think that would be pretty heavy if given the chance to vote against Hunter Biden. So I think that it is for the better of the country that he did step down. To call him a hero for such would be an overstepping of boundaries to me. It's a realization of the polls and recognizing that, yeah, I'm getting my ass kicked here. That's what I really think it was. Now, things are going to come down to Trump or Kamala. It'll be very interesting to see also if Trump is going to commit to these debates. It looks like he's trying to weasel his way out or find a way out of them with Kamala. I don't know why. Kamala is the perfect example of someone that you want to debate and you want to just let her talk. Same way as Biden, but for different reasons. Reason being is she, to most people, is hard to listen to. She just does not have much by way of speaking ability or ability to conjure up sentences that give you confidence, especially confidence that you would hope to have in the president of the United States and their ability to lead, their ability to orate. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, obviously. I'm not a Trump bum rusher. I think that Kamala would be pretty poor for the country. We will see how things play out. But all we could say is it's definitely a race at this point. We talked about the money. We talked about Kamala getting pushed in. But what I also want to talk about before the end of the episode today is the updates on Trump and the shooting out in Pennsylvania. We have a few updates, and most of them are procedural updates. There were eyes on, allegedly, the shooter being on the roof up to 26 minutes or more before the shooting occurred. Okay, stationed on the roof, didn't have anybody surveying the roof, did not have drone coverage, allegedly. And what we also had was at the time, who has since stepped down, but at the time, the director of the Secret Service, take the stand and take virtually no accountability. If you haven't seen any of this, I'm not going to try to put any clips today. I'm just going to make it nice and simple for you. But please go search up the director or the head of the Secret Service, her interview in front of Congress. I believe it was about Wednesday, would have been something like July 23rd or so, 24th. So go ahead and look up those dates on YouTube. Go check out her ability to avoid answering real questions and look at how hard she got hammered by both the left and the right. Both Democrats and Republicans had major issues with her answers, unable to answer straightforwardly and referring often back to the fact that this is an ongoing investigation. Where I think that she got herself into trouble is the fact that not recognizing that she herself was under investigation at this point. These are the people that you technically answer to. These are the people that can get you fired. And not being able to provide answers to a key scenario, and then also blatantly admitting and taking no remorse in the fact, seemingly, that she did not visited the site of the occurrence up to that point, which was well over a week after the event had occurred. It was brazen, and to be honest, I'm glad that she's out. I don't think that she was very competent in her job, clearly as one of the most close examples of an assassination on a president occurred in more than 4 decades. So very glad that she has finally stepped down, but really you would think that it would have happened immediately. That being said, she's out. Go take a look at some of that testimony. Real great ability to avoid any sort of accountability in the situation. It's sad she's gone now. And with those updates, again, the shooter had been cited with a rangefinder as well. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but if you have this many things pointing to the fact that you should not be anywhere near a rally, it is amazing that anybody did not say anything sooner and that the cops did not act. And it makes one think as to why they would not, right? And it's conspiracy theories are pretty heavy at this point, coming from both sides, to be honest. But the main theory that I'm hearing is, number one, Trump didn't even get shot and that it was faked, or that it was some sort of shrapnel. I don't know what kind of shrapnel you could have, but the person behind him got shot, died. I think it's hard to argue that he didn't get shot at, so I think that one's kind of out the window. Again, there's a lot of things that can be fabricated, especially nowadays, but to say that someone didn't get shot at that rally, multiple people injured, it's pretty unfathomable to me to try to say that the former president is lying about his ear getting shot and part of his head getting shot. If you have also seen, there has been many instances of renditions and slowdowns of where the shooter's aim and the trajectory of the bullet would have been had Trump not done that last minute head turn before he had gotten shot. If you need to go take a look at it, take a look at it. I want to say it was in last week's show. I believe I put a clip in there, so you can go take a look at that. Barely getting missed because of that little turn to the head. And it is crazy to think that we were that close to, I don't know if it would have been an immediate civil war, but I can tell you for sure that there would have been immediate retaliation and action taken by the other side had President Trump been shot. All I could say is thank God that he wasn't. We'll leave this down to a fair race. I pray that we have an open, honest, and fair election here coming up in 2024. I don't want to say that I doubt it. I think that we are going to see the writing on the wall, whichever side it is, and may the best candidate win. I really hope that we find out more and more information about the person Kamala that we are voting for on the left side, because to be honest, Trump's record's been out in public view for the past, now it's going to be more than 8 years. Being that, yeah, maybe he didn't start as a politician, but he sure as shit is a politician now. And Donald Trump is on the same playing ground as a Joe Biden, as a Kamala Harris, as Mitt Romney. They are all the same person now. You know exactly what his record is, what it's showing up to be. And to be honest, anybody believing that Trump is trying to be a dictator is, I think, misunderstanding what happened in 2020 as well. Right? We had the incident of January 6th where the president also still gave up his power. And you would think, well, there would have been a lot more of a challenge and a lot harder time letting go than what happened. We wouldn't have Joe Biden as president right now. I don't think that we have a possible dictator coming up with Donald Trump. You may disagree with a lot of his policy decisions. You may disagree with his persona as a whole, and I don't blame you there. To be honest, it is hard to swallow. But one thing you could say is that the man clearly loves our country, and I hope to God that he had a change of heart on some of his rhetoric and policy decisions after having his life threatened as seriously as it was a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to end the show on that note. I want to thank you all again for joining us over here at We the Patriots. If you enjoyed the show, go check us out, WeThePatriotsMedia.com. Go like up this show, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Kamala, the VP pick that could be possible. And let me know if you think that Trump is floundering or going to weather the storm and beat Kamala. It's kind of up in the air at this point. A lot of people are trying to say that Trump is struggling to catch up with this big injection of money that came from Democrats. No, I think it's a catch-22 at this point, and we got a race, gentlemen. Hopefully we'll have Dr. John on here next week, talk a little bit about the implications of unprecedented things happening continuously in this election cycle and how much of an impact they have on voter turnout, on the perception of the election from the people, and our ability to want to vote for the candidate. Because to be honest, I thought that Hillary and Donald Trump in 2016 was two of the worst candidates going at each other, and we have proven ourselves wrong again and again and again. Just my opinion. Hope you guys have a great week. I should be back here next Monday with you all. Have a good one. Peace out.
I wanna be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.